News in the world today, which sometimes I get totally sick of, and I'm sure you do too, is COVID-19. It's totally changed our lives in so many ways. And now the big things, right, are the different strains that are going around, and do I get vaccinated or not? So I'm going to look at COVID-19 vaccine data for a moment. There are a significant number of people that are choosing to not get vaccinated. And there's all kinds of reasons people don't get vaccinated. And one kind of surprising thing to me is that there's a difference in like one's ideology and whether they get vaccinated. And I get that in some sense, because I grew up with some friends whose families were of a certain religion where like they just don't get vaccinated, not for measles, not for mumps, not for all these other things. And that's fine, that's their choice. My family was religious, and in our religion, it's like, yeah, no, you should get vaccinated, definitely, do it. Right? So there are all these different beliefs that lead people to do stuff. At the moment, the data shows that about, let's see, what was this? Oh, I wrote it down in my notes, where'd it go? I think it was 30%. Actually, now I'm having a brain fart. And I got a written up version of this I will share later. Basic hypothesis test. It's kind of a neater version of my notes here. All right, so let's see. Around 69% of adults in February said they were definitely or probably going to get it. And the article also stated that 30% definitely or probably won't get the vaccine. Okay. So 30% of US adults definitely or probably won't get vaccinated. Now and I'll share this article later when I post that page when I'm done typing it up. Other interesting things they pointed out was they just looked at what was their difference in males and females, and the stark one for me was the difference in political views in getting the vaccine. So it was something like 43% of Republicans say no way. Republicans, there we go, say no. I think it was something like 5% of people that claim to be Democrats say no, and independent I think was about 20. This one I'm not as sure about. Somewhere between 10 and 20% say no, they're not going to get it. So thinking about that, and it's like, okay, in the area I live, there's more Republicans by a significant margin than Democrats. So I was wondering, in my area, are people more likely, more than 30% of people saying, no, I'm not going to get it. So let's suppose I say in my area, at least 35% are going to say no vaccine. Right, so this is my kind of question. And I know that's a statement, not a question, but I don't know. I haven't taken that data, and I haven't seen any direct data on, say, Eastern Oregon, where I live. But just thinking about my question, what does my question mean? At least 35. So that means at least, it means it could be 35 or higher. So at least 35 is, I'm saying that the population proportion is greater than or equal to 35%. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Portland, And he says, well, in Portland, people are more Democratic leaning than Republican. So I think it's at most 25% around here. So in Portland area, my friend thinks, Portlandia, my friend was thinking at most 25% are going to say, no, I'm not getting vaccinated. And I mentioned this before, that human language is messy and sometimes hard to interpret. What I say to my daughter and what she understands aren't the same thing. What my wife says to me and what I understand aren't the same thing. And so here I just wanted to get at some common language we use versus how we write it in math. So at most 25 means it could be up to and including 25. So my friend's saying he believes the population parameter for his region compared to the national average, right? National average is 30, would be at most, so less than or equal to 25%. So again, a struggle that's always going to be the case in situations like this when we're dealing with the messiness of human beings is interpreting the language. And so this is something that throws people off when we're doing hypothesis testing confidence intervals, the idea of at least and at most. So I just want to remind you about how at least translates mathematically and at most. And every once in a while, my brain farts on those kinds of things. So I think about money. I think, okay, let's see, I could have at least $100. Oh, okay, at least $100. That's the least I could have. So I could have more than that, right? So the greater than or equal to, versus I could have at most $100. Oh man, at most 100, that's all I have? Okay. So sometimes thinking about money helps me deal with those. Question now, are these statements that I came up with and my friends, are they alternative hypotheses or null hypotheses? What do you think? Oops, I heard something, but I couldn't quite decipher it. Alternative. Answer is they have to be null hypotheses because they have an equals present in them. So anytime a question comes up and that question implies an equal sign is in there, equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, that means they would have to be the null hypothesis. Often we talk about the question that's being asked as the alternative, and that happens most of the time, but the presence of the equal sign for a hypothesis test is really the ideal identifier as to what's null and what's alternative. So if I went with mine right here, then my hypothesis that P is greater than or equal to 35%, because of the presence of the equal to, that would have to be the null hypothesis. And the alternative hypothesis, I really don't have much of a choice on that. Sometimes there is a choice. That would have to be P is less than 35%. So big ideas in this new part of statistics are, given a situation, can we identify what the two hypotheses are? Sometimes that's straightforward and sometimes it's tricky. And then once we identify them, then we get some data and we test the hypotheses. So we are out of time for fun with statistics. We will do more setting up hypotheses and testing them in the next class. Later today, I'll post my neat version of the question I was about to ask here and how to use StatKey to answer it. And then I will also have the practice problems posted later. I'm almost done editing those. So right now, the goals for the week are posted and some of the videos more to come. So take care, do good math. I've got a few minutes before my next appointment if anybody has a question. Otherwise, Bree, I'm meeting you later today.